Hello and welcome to episode 319 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. Usually I say joined as always by my main man, Snoog, but he's in Miami, living it up, fishing, doing all kinds of fun stuff. So we brought on a great guest. I'm excited to chop it up with him. He is the social media director from Dynasty Trade Calculator. He's one of the sharpest guys in Dynasty. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, at DynastyDorks. My main man, Dave Heilman. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. It's free agency has been a hell of a week, and excited to talk some trades.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, I look forward to Tuesday night trade talk all the time. Brock, tonight's show, and we're getting so many trades. I mean, we're literally getting thousands when you factor in YouTube and Twitter and the Discord. That we got to start making these shows a little bit more fine tuned. And tonight, it's all about the 2024 rookies. Last show, we did all 2025 rookie picks. Tonight, it's going to be all about these 2024 rookies. And those guys, honestly, we talked about what the 24 class was last year. They are the staple of what a lot of your dynasty builds are. And I'm excited to jump into this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I want to actually go back. I know you've been doing a lot more startups recently than me, but seeing how many of those 24 picks are going in like the first 3 rounds. I mean, I'd imagine it's at least 8 of them. You at least got a few quarterbacks, 3 or 4 receivers. So it's exciting. Bowers, obviously. So it's going to be cool to kind of value those. And then how is that going to relate to picks now? Do people want to get off of someone who's just that productive and tear down here already in 2025? So,
and we talk about that all the time. Is like this year's class is going to be interesting. You know, you don't have the quarterbacks at the top, which is going to really tear things down a little bit. But these guys, I mean, 8 guys are going in the top 3 rounds. Then you got Worthy mixed in there, Penix. Like last year's class, we really got a great value. And I'm excited to talk about trades with these guys. Before we even start, patreon.com/smashaccept. Right now is the best time. I mean, we got free agency trackers in there. We're talking about trades. Every time something goes through, Justin Fields signs with the Jets and everybody's like, Dad, what are we trading? I have him. I'm trying to get rid of him. Another guy's like, I'm trying to buy him. I need a quarterback. So it's been a fun time, really just trying to give player equivalents. I know that's something Dave's awesome at on Twitter with Twitter polls, trying to, be on top of the market. So I'm glad to have you on the show, Dave. I'm glad that we're going to be able to chop it up, and let's jump right into these trades, Brock.
Yeah, let's do it. So trade number 1 here coming from Funky Jackets over there from Twitter. So we got a 12-team super flex. One side with Jayden Daniels, Bijan Robinson in the 307. The other side with the stack there, Mahomes Worthy, the 101 and the 102. So I'm interested here, Dad. I know you're a big Daniels truther, even from the past couple of years to now. What do we think here? Where are we going? Where are we leaning with this one?
Oh, I'm smashing the Jayden Daniels side so hard. You look at Bijan and Junty isn't a huge gap. It was the 101 and 201, not 102. So that makes quite a bit of difference here. But for me, I mean, Mahomes, Worthy, and the 201 does not equal Jayden Daniels. I mean, Jayden Daniels right now, if you look at sheer production, he's arguably the 101 in startup drafts. The production of Jayden Daniels to Patrick Mahomes at this point is a drastic jump off. And it would take at least, a mid to early first to even start to consider that. So for me, it's Daniels and Bijan pretty comfortably. Dave, I know you work a lot with what's going on at Dynasty Trade Calculator, and a lot when we're talking about what the market value is here. Patrick Mahomes is a tough sell. Are you in agreement on this one, or would you take the Mahomes side?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Mahomes has been of course he's a comfortable, safe, back end QB1. And that's good, but you play for first place, you play to win. And so Jayden Daniels gives you that upside. And then Bijan Robinson, Worthy he looked really good, but like, what's this offense going to look like? Rashee Rice, we don't know what is going to happen with his suspension, but eventually he's coming back. Hollywood was looking good at the end of the year. I know it's at one point Kelsey's going to be out, but Kelsey's going to be back, and Worthy's already had a little bit of trouble off the field. We'll see if he, escapes any suspensions or anything. But I just think, when you're getting you're literally getting the QB1, I know it's questionable whether it's Allen or Daniels, but the potential QB1 and RB1.
Yeah,
it really is going to be hard to give me anything to get those guys off my team if I have both of them, because that means I have not only do I have a contender this year, but I have a dynasty.
Yeah. If that was what Brock said, the 101, 102, is that enough to sway you?
that I was like, wait a minute. Because
it's not a smash though. It's not like, oh yeah, I got to do it because I think it's fair then with the 102, but I don't know if I take it because, like you said, you're getting the QB1 and the RB1 in Dynasty.
Yeah, it makes it a lot closer. And I will say, like, as far as overall value, it was close on the trade calc. So good job to these guys of, putting something together that was fair for both sides. I think both sides I can see both sides liking their side of the trade and feel like it's a win-win. The 102 would change things, of course. And the 102 versus like saying Omari and Hampton is different because like if you do a trade poll, the picks are always, or even if I do a startup and I put the picks instead of the players, they always go higher because the trade value. I mean, you can turn the 102 into, you can turn I've seen someone earlier today, they traded back from 102 to 103 and they moved up from McMillan to McConkey. So like you got huge upgrade and you moved from what, Omari and Hampton to Tet McMillan. Like I'm okay with that.
That was Jalen McMillan to Ladd?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, and that's brilliant analysis on your end because, people talk about that. They say, well, I mean, Dad, you're talking about 102 versus this player. The 102, everybody wants that, right? Not everybody wants that player. And once you pick at the 102, that becomes that player, right? So if you took Cam Ward, you already eliminated X amount of the guys in your league that want Cam Ward. If you take Tet McMillan, you eliminated X amount of guys that wanted Tet McMillan. If you take Omarion Hampton, in this year's class, the 102 is not definitive. Where last year, I had the 102. I traded Marv for Malik plus a first. You can't do that once you're talking about an actual player. So I love that, Dave.
All right, moving on to the next trade here from AJ Estevez from the Patreon. Appreciate it, AJ. He was saying he's got one side with the 101 and the 108, and the other side with Malik Nabers. So I'll pass this one over to you here, Dave. Is Jainty in the 108 enough to move off of Malik, or are you just going to stick with the 21-year-old phenom?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the receiver on this one. I love Genty, and, I assume in all these trades that it's SF because, almost all Dynasty is super flex. But it doesn't necessarily matter as much this year. Just it helps the 108 a little bit. Might add one or two players falling down the board. But Nabers is just such a good player. I will say this. It's tough with Nabers because the situation is so cloudy. Even if he gets Rodgers, what's that going to look like? And then is it going to be who's going to be next year? If he gets Cam Ward, what's that going to look like? Or Shedeur Sanders? So it is murky, but I get confidence just because of how well he did last year in that. And like if the Giants do get a good quarterback at some point, this guy's going to take off. And I love Genty, but I'd rather take the proven talent.
So yeah, I'm actually on the other side, and I'm buying Genty. I think he's going to be the next big thing. I got him already in the same tier as Gibbs and Bijan. The Ridge, when AJ came to me with this, he said Malik or the 101, and I said, well, it's Malik hands down. But I said, does he have another first? And he said, yeah, he has the 108. And I said, let's get him to throw that in there. And in this trade, for me, then, like what you said is, I'm going to insulate here. I think by the end of the year, Nabers is going to be the wide receiver 1 Dynasty, but I think Genty moves himself up to that, RB2, RB3 range. And now I have that 108 where I can take, I could take a Puka, I could take Warren, I could take who falls to that spot, or I could trade it back. And I think the insulation here is at the 108 value wise, you're looking at a wide receiver that you can get, a little bit better than DK Metcalf, where you're getting a wide receiver plus the running back production, or even trade it back and get a 27 first plus another wide receiver here. So I think this is a good trade. I think Malik Nabers is just so difficult. It's kind of like that first trade, Dave, is you're going to have to pry Malik Nabers out of my cold, dead hands on most trades. We did an entire show on him, and it's just so hard to acquire Malik Nabers. So I could see this from either direction. Also, before we go into the next trade, so many guys are already DMing me. Guys are putting messages on here. The only way to guarantee you're going to get covered on the show is via the super chats. And tonight's show, we will give away one free rookie guide. That's a $40 value in 1 month of the VIP Discord with 5 super chats. So 5 super chats we will give away for $60 value just for you guys. Figured we'd throw that in because we always like to throw a little bit back to you guys when you do that.
All right, moving on to our next trade here from Johnny Locksville over on Twitter. Love that name. So we got one side with Marv and the other side with Sutton in the 106. What do we think on this one, Dad?
Oh, I'm smashing Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of my biggest buys in Dynasty right now. I have him the equivalent of the 102. And if I'm sitting at the 102, you throw me a guy like Cortland Sutton who's worth a mid second, I'm not going to move off of that. So I'm sticking with Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Dave, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I think Marv is a good buy right now, and this is a good example. We might have another example of that here soon.
Dude, I love it. I threw some easy ones in here, Dave. I wanted to get everything rolling. I wanted to get the show flowing. I wanted to kind of read your philosophy on things. Guys, another quick thing, and then I won't plug anymore. If you guys use code SPRING50 right now, most of us woke up and we're like, what the hell's going on? Daylight savings time, when we spring it forward. I don't know about you, Dave. Every year I get older, I'm like, it feels like it takes me a couple extra hours longer. So I said, how can we give back? 50% off your first month of Smash Accept Patreon Discord, the fastest growing Discord in Dynasty, with Spring 50 over there at patreon.com. So let's jump on to this next one. And now they're going to start to get a little bit tougher, Dave. We took it easy. We wanted to just introduce you to the show. Now we're going to make it tough. And Brock, we're going to make it tough for you to pronounce last names.
I was just about to say, sorry, Seth, if I mispronounce this, but we got our next trade coming from Seth over from the Patreon. So we got one side with Jordan Addison and Ricky Pearsal, and the other side with Marv. So we got two rookies from last year, and Jordan Addison on the other side. Now going to be with JJ McCarthy. They got rid of Darnold. Daniel Jones went to Indianapolis. So what do we think on this one, Dave? Addison and Pearsal, or are we just gonna take Marv again?
Yeah, and I'm historically a Purdy guy. I like McCarthy mainly because I just love the situation. I love Kevin O'Connell. Anyone that can make Sam Darnold that fantasy relevant, he can do some things with JJ McCarthy, I think. And I really do like those players, but I love Marvin Harrison Jr. And it just comes down to me of, do you want the 2 quarters or the 50 cents? And so I want the blue chip player in here. And I think Harrison is a blue chip player. Last year was his rookie year, and because everyone else was so damn good, he was just off the radar. Still going to be a good player. And year 2 should be a much better season.
Marvin Harrison Jr. right now is 50 cents, but he will be worth $1. 885 yards, 8 touchdowns. And like you said, it's because Nabers and Brock were so good in BTJ. A lot of years, that's rookie wide receiver 1 numbers, and everybody would catapult him up. I do love Addison and Pearsal. I think they have decent value, but I feel like you're almost missing a late first or an early second here to close the gap with Marv, unless we're talking maybe a 16-teamer. But again, everything that we cover is 12-team super flex, basic, 0.5 tight end premium. So I would need this player to be a little bit higher up. You're looking at 2 late first for an early first, and I'm not that high on Addison to make this deal done.
Yeah, maybe if one of those players was like, what do you say, an early to mid first, maybe you can stomach that, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. I'll take Marv as well. So trade number 5 here, coming from Jonathan Chansey over from Twitter. I like this one. We got one side with Amon Ra, James Cook, and the 104. Other side with Malik Nabers, and coming off a breakout. I wasn't expecting that year. Jameson Williams. So Amon Ra, James Cook, the 104. Other side with Nabers and JMO. Dad, what do we think on this one?
Dude, I've now said you're going to have to pry Malik Nabers out of my cold, dead hands.
Is this
enough? Giving him up. I'm giving him up here again. I mean, that's where I think Amon Ra and Nabers are right now. I have both of them in the same tier. I have right now Nabers as my dynasty wide receiver 3, and I have Amon Ra as my dynasty wide receiver 5 right now. So I think the gap there is not as big as, say, the James Cook or the 104. So, I mean, I prefer Cook over Jameson, and 104 and Amon Ra feels like a smash, except for me. Like, I'm hitting that button so hard. That one's getting the good old cowbell. We got to break that out, because I think Amon Ra is he's not as sexy as Malik Nabers when you talk about trade value, but the production is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this one was pretty heavy on the Amon Ra side. I think that there needs to be like a 2026 first or something equivalent on the other side. You have the big names, but like for me, Jameson Williams, he does like you're like you said, you break it up into 2 and you say James Cook and Jameson Williams. Even if you made that a wash and said that's a wash for me, you're getting 104 is definitely makes the difference between Amon Ra and Nabers. Still a young player, still a great player, and he's been very, very consistent in his career, and I love that. I love that, the ceiling and the floor combo with him. So give me that side easy. Smash.
When you trade, yeah, there you go. Now we're talking. When it comes to trading studs, like when we talk about trading a guy like Malik Nabers, when you talk to me a little bit about the product over there at Dynasty Trade Calculator, because they're doing a lot of cool things. The trade GPT is super sexy. The other day I posted something on Twitter and Trade GPT literally did an analysis on said trade, and it was very similar to how I would have spoke. Do they factor in, when you're selling studs at a premium on those kind of things? So if you guys aren't familiar, that's Dynasty Trade Calculator. They do, honestly, when it comes to trade calculators, they are the best in the business. So tell me a little bit about that, Dave.
Yeah, and when you connect your team to the league, it'll be more nuanced. So like it'll actually, like, you can connect to your sleeper league, and so the settings all go in there. Plus, like, if you're like a contender or a rebuilder, it's in there, and then it'll offer like alternative trades. So like in this one, it might say, well, like, hey, you're really trying to get rid of Malik Nabers. If you're gonna do that, hey, Brock's team and like a whole nother team, they've got another player that might be good for you because you really need a tight end right now, and he's got two. And so you can go get Laporta instead of Jameson Williams, and this is a better deal.
I love that. That's really cool product. Make sure you guys check them out. Brock, turning it back over to you, brother.
All right. Moving on here to trade number 7, coming from Mariah Mayer over from the Patreon. So we got one side with CJ Stroud in the 201, and the other side with new starter for the Vikings, JJ McCarthy, and Devon Achane. Dan, where are we at with this one?
Give me the new man on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm all in on JJ McCarthy. I have been from the start. I've been telling everybody to buy him on all the rebuilding teams when he got injured, because you were getting him for a late first. I've been saying it all offseason to buy him for 108 to 110. Now his value to me has risen to a point where it's not that far off from CJ Stroud. After Stroud had such a disappointing sophomore season, the offense, they lose Laramie Tunsil. I think the gap between JJ McCarthy and Stroud is nowhere near the gap between Devon Achane and the 201. Dave, you're the master of the Twitter polls. I put this one up there on Twitter. It's 78-22 from the McCarthy side. Are you surprised by this at all?
No. And so like I had a trade going, and I was trying to see where McCarthy is, and I think the 102 in your super flex is he's in between that and the 101 for some people. And now, like today, where things are more official, I think people still take the 101 over McCarthy, but that's a conversation. And like you said, if you would have, while there was the Sam Darnold thing still there, you could have probably got him for a 108, 109. And I had the person say that. So I threw the poll up there. I'm like, all right. And like McCarthy, he was close to Stroud. I think with all the things that we've seen in the last couple of days, it's gone a lot closer. He's a lot younger. He runs the ball. And he's on just such a great offense. I mean, we've even seen Nick Mullins be a QB2 in Superflex for a short period of time. Josh Dobbs. I mean, anybody that Kevin O'Connell coaches is good. And I think McCarthy is a much better player than people give him credit for because that Michigan offense. So, that side for me easily. And I think Stroud took a hit. I mean, Laramie Tunsil leaving it's not the free agency show, but man, I'm like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah. I mean, you got to move him way down. You got to have, and McCarthy gets, the guard or the center from Indianapolis, who did not allow an entire sack all last year. Everything's just pointing up for McCarthy. If you can get McCarthy plus a late 26 first for Stroud, still, I would do that. But Dave's already saying, McCarthy would be the QB1 in this class. And a lot of people, I mean, Brock knows I've been saying that for months, where it was like, as soon as he's the starter, and he will be, it was going to go up to where that QB1 is. And now I feel like we're trending that way. If you get him for less than the 102, I would do it right now. You just got to go out there and you got to strike while the iron's hot, even if you feel like you're paying a bit of a premium.
All right. Moving on here to trade number 8 from Damian Valdez over from Twitter. We got one side with Caleb Williams, AJ Brown, and Kyle Pitts. The other side with Malik Nabers, Devontae Smith, Pat Fryermuth, and Jalen Coker. So we got a little 3 for 4 here, Dave. I'm going to kick this one over to you.
Yeah, this one it's pretty close. But I like the AJ Brown side on this one. I know we talked a lot about Nabers earlier, but you're getting Caleb Williams. We saw all the stuff that's going on there. He's another guy that, like, if you were to be buying JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams a month ago, you're feeling really, really good right now. And it's just, quarterbacks are king in super flex. And then AJ Brown on top of it, I think it's a smash. You say Pitts is involved in this one. He's a piece. Everyone's got someone in their league that wants Pitts. If you don't want him, he's an asset and you can move him. Use Pitts and something else to go up and get somebody you actually like. He's someone, because the name value you can at least use as an asset, and that's what I see in that part of the trade.
Brock, we put out a show 3 months ago. My 2 biggest quarterback buys. You remember who they were? It's Caleb Williams, McCarthy, and now it's like Dynasty's such a cyclical game. It's easy to predict sometimes. And the Bears, as soon as we were like, okay, they're going to get a new coach. What's the best coaching situation they could have got? Ben Johnson. All right, so that's a great start. Then they go out and they get 3 offensive linemen. I mean, they went from a bottom 5 offensive line to potentially a top 5 offensive line in football. Caleb Williams, with time, is absolutely surgical. They have Rome Odunze. They still have DJ Moore. Even if Keenan Allen doesn't come back, this offense, we are creating a Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions offense in Chicago, and he's going to light it up. I think he has top 5 upside. I think he's almost a lock to be a QB1 in 2025, and I have him as my Dynasty QB8 and rising. So I love this one. I'm glad we're on the same page there, Dave, because sometimes, you and I have been doing this long enough. The cyclical nature of Dynasty is like the game becomes a lot easier than redraft. Yeah.
No, and the market changes. This is the way the NFL offseason is. One move can ripple another move. We got the draft coming up. I mean, you very much could see an Ashton Genty go to them in the first round, or Hampton in the second or third. But you have Tyler Warren. That would be an amazing fit there. I know they have Cole Kmet, but he's not really a game breaker. Tyler Warren in that offense, with what they're trying to do, with be a physical, bite your kneecaps junior over there. I think Tyler Warren would be a good fit for that offense and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're really on one thing that you and I have definitely thrived on over the last several years is just being ahead of the market value. And I know if you guys don't follow him, it's at Dynasty Dorks on Twitter. He's always putting up polls. He's always trying to put things where you guys get an idea of market value. And sometimes this industry, it's more than just player analysis. It's being a salesman. It's knowing the market. There's so many other things there, Dave. I mean, if you had a new dynasty manager, someone that's brand new, listen to the show for the first time, like, what is your biggest sales pitch on how to get ahead? Because there's so many guys out there putting things. Talk a little bit about what you're doing that would help people get over the top.
Yeah. First thing is always know your settings. If you're getting into a bunch of different leagues, know your settings. And, first year people, I would suggest not doing a lot of trades. As much as I love trades, don't do a lot of trades in the first year. That's how you can really ruin your team, ruin your dynasty experience. But get a show like this and really stay tuned in, because the more like, this dynasty is not just about knowing the players, it's about knowing the news, knowing what's going on. Like the fact that the Bears got huge offensive lineman moves, that's important for dynasty. And like, that's not the stuff that you really talk about a lot in redraft.
I love that you said that, because I mean, right now, Brock, patreon.com/smash accept, people are joining all the time and they're like, Dad, we just joined. What's our first trade? And I was like, that's not the first thing we talk about. Let's diagnose your roster. Let's look at what's going on here. Let's figure out, like Dave said, what the settings are. Let's take a little bit of time. Let's diagnose this. Let's digest it. And let's start making a plan. So many guys just want to blindly trade. And that's how I did when I first started Dynasty. But now it's a matter of, what's the plan, right? So many guys will come to me in the Discord and they'll say, this trade or that trade, should I do this? And I'm like, sometimes it's neither. Sometimes it's just like, what's the point? And I will be firmly honest. I literally talk to people the same way I would talk to you guys if you asked for advice is this is how I'm treating my team. I see no point in this trade. You got to have a direction. Are you rebuilding? Are you contending? What is the direction of the overall team? Because just to trade blindly doesn't make sense sometimes. So love that analysis.
All right. I think we're on trade 9 here, Dad. Yep. Dynasty Hills from Twitter. So we got one side with Puka Nacua and Brock Bowers, other side with BTJ, George Kittle, the 102, and the 301. I'm going to kick this one over to you, Dad. We had a little bit of Bowers discussion on our last show, a little bit about what his value's worth. I mean, Bowers and Puka, that looks like a great little package there. But what do we think?
So we've now unfortunately said on 3 different trades that we would be trading Malik Nabers. Brock Bowers is damn near untradeable for me. Like, he is such a difference maker. If I'm not getting McBride somewhere in there and a massive upgrade, I'm not even considering it. For me, Puka Nacua is still above, even with the Devontae Adams, signing there. I think you're still going to see 2023 Puka, where Cup is going to be, or Adams is going to be in that Cup role. Puka is still going to thrive. So I have Puka above Brian Thomas Jr. And as much as I love Kittle, and I do tell everybody, it's like, if I'm not getting the big 3 tight ends, Kittle's my favorite contending tight end, but I am not selling Brock Bowers for the Kittle 102 and 301. I'm just not, even though I love Hampton and I love what you could possibly do with that trade. I'm running out of here with Puka and Bowers, but it's pretty close. Dave, what are you thinking on this one? We got 2 guys here, absolute studs from that 2024 class, BTJ and Bowers. You don't see a lot of either of these guys getting traded, let alone both of them in the same deal.
Yeah, this is very similar to like the Bijan and the Daniels trade from earlier, where the other side has more value. Like, if I plug this into the calc or go through a trade chart, it's going to have more value on the Brian Thomas side. It's a great, that's a great haul. But I'm just going to take the 2 blue chip guys that I'm going to be able to put in my lineup, and they're going to stay there for a long, long time. And I'm going to build them because those are cornerstone pieces. Brian Thomas Jr. is a cornerstone piece. The 102, I mean, it's a scratch-off ticket. 102 could be an absolute stud, could be an absolute bust. And so I'm gonna stick with Puka and Bowers, even if I gotta, like, I know there's like people say, like, if you want to win the trade, Jeff Ratcliffe hates that. It's not about win the trade, lose the trade. Calc said this, Calc said that. If your team got better and you got the best asset in the deal, then that's good. That's a win. And if the other guy won too, that's fine.
And you hear Dave there saying the word cornerstone. At Smash, we call it foundational. Either way you slice it, it's the same thing. Brock, we talk about this a lot. You could win that trade with BTJ, Kittle. Then you get the 102. You tier the 102 into the 106 and get a 27 first on top, and you start cascading and playing with it. But both of us are firmly on that Puka Bowers side. Are you bringing home the trifecta here?
Yeah. I'm on that side as well.
Love it.
All right. Next trade coming from Jeffrey Silva over from Twitter. So we got one side with Marv in the 106 and the 409, and the other side with CeeDee Lamb and Tyrone Tracy. I'll kick this one over here to you, Dave, to get kind of your thoughts. I know he's a supplemental piece in this, but we talked a little bit about Tyrone Tracy, kind of his value, what the Giants might do with RB in the draft. Which side are we leaning here with this one?
Yeah, and Lamb is a hard one to trade. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. and just looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. plus the 106 for Lamb, that's like, it's interesting. I'm still going to take Lamb. As much as I think Marvin Harrison Jr., I love that quote earlier. He's worth 50 cents now. He's going to be worth $1 later. Lamb's worth like $5. I mean, he's really, really good, and he's been good for a long time. He's young, and I'm going to take him. And he's someone that I can trade for a lot. And so this is a decent amount, but like, if I really wanted to trade Lamb, I think I can get more.
Dave, if we change that 409 to a 26 first, how close is that? I almost feel like Marv 103 would be Tracy, or Marv 103, 104 at worst. When you're talking 106, because like Tracy has a mid-second value or slightly better if he avoids the landmine of the draft. But let's even take Tracy out of there. Is Marv 106 enough for you to trade Lamb? It's not for me.
Yeah, it's not enough. It needs to be a higher pick or another first. It's just that's how much I believe in Lamb.
Yeah, same here. I love it.
All right. Next trade coming from Oscar Alonso from the Patreon. Appreciate it, Oscar. So we got one side with new Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf and new Rams wide receiver Devontae Adams. The other side is a random 26 first and Xavier Legette. So we got two players on the move with a random first next year and Legette. Dad, what do we think with this one?
All right, so this has a multiple different things to break down. I don't love DK Metcalf going to the Steelers, especially we don't know who the quarterback is, but if you look at him over time, last year before he went down, he was looking at, he was going to be pacing out to be wide receiver, inside the top 24 wide receivers again. He's a lock to be in there. As a Steelers fan, I would love to have DK Metcalf there. I think Devontae Adams is about to go off. We saw 13.2 points per game from Cooper Kupp and a shell of Cooper Kupp. Devontae Adams with Stafford. This is the best quarterback he's had in a long time. So I love Devontae Adams here. If I am contending, I want Metcalf and Adams all day long. If I am rebuilding, I want that random first over Metcalf, and I don't want Legette over Devontae Adams. In my mandatory, when we talk about Xavier Legette, we're going to reference him eating raccoons. But I think if this is a random 27 first, and that Legette is something a little bit more like a Ricky Pearsal, I would smash that. But right now, I sold Devontae Adams for a 27 first in one league. I sold him for the 202 and the 206. I think this is still Metcalf and Devontae Adams. But, Dave, I think we have an opportunity here. If you've been sitting on Devontae Adams and you're rebuilding, or even DK Metcalf, for that matter, is going to be turning 28, now's your time to sell.
Yeah, once you get some QB news, you can maybe move Metcalf or even just try to wait for a good game. But Devontae Adams is absolutely someone that if you're a contender, you want to buy, and if you're rebuilding, you're selling to the highest bidder. And I'm not a Legette guy. Like, I feel like whatever I get from Adams this year is going to be better than what I'm going to get from Legette, and I don't really care about too much later on down the road because I don't know if Legette is going to, like, he may be a good football player for a while, but I don't know if he's going to be a dynasty asset. That 26 first versus Metcalf, I think that's kind of where Metcalf's valued at right now. And so Adams just puts it over the top. And again, like you said, if you're contending, I definitely want that other side. If I'm rebuilding, I think I can get a little bit more than 26 first and Legette, 26 first and something else. Legette is just not, it doesn't do it for me.
Brock, how do you look at like a player like Devontae Adams versus Legette? A lot of people say, well, if I'm rebuilding, I'd prefer Legette. But I just look at the straight value of Devontae Adams. And in your league, 11 guys want Devontae Adams. 3 might want Xavier Legette or less. Even though, most calculators are going to say the values are really similar.
Yeah, I like the way Dave put that. It's like, I think Adams is going to score more points in the next 2 seasons than Legette could in the next 6. You know what I mean? It's that could very well happen, and you may as well just take the value now. And then if you're rebuilding, week 2, he puts up a 30 bomb, ship him, go get a late 26 first or projected early second. You can there's other points to sell players rather than right now if you don't love the value that you're getting back. So yeah, I'll agree with y'all. Take the vets on that one.
And Metcalf's an awesome point that you made is now's not the time to trade him yet. Wait till they sign Russ. Wait till they sign Rodgers. Wait till they trade George Pickens. Wait till they draft, Dart, or something like. Wait till something happens, because when news happens this time of year, everybody flocks towards it, and they start to move that way. Now's not the time. Love that.
All right, next trade coming from Chandler Hughes from the Patreon, and we got one side with Ladd in the 111, the other side with Addison and the 104. I love seeing these 2-for-2s with same positions and picks in them. Someone's tearing down, someone's tearing up. Dad, who would you rather be in this situation?
I want Ladd 111. I think Ladd, McConkey, and we're going to see a trade here in a little. We might as well cover it. I mean, Chris Jones from the Patreon put in Ladd or the 103, and Twitter, you guys put it at 54% for the 103, 46% said Ladd. Dave, I think if we plug in any name at the 103, Hampton, Tet, or Ward, I think Ladd wins it even more handedly, like you brought up here before. So, I mean, we're talking about 103 versus 104, and Addison 111 is not big enough gap for me to move off Ladd McConkey, who I think is a foundational wide receiver. I would trade the 104 for Ladd. I don't know if I'd trade the 103 for Ladd. So there's a lot to break down. This particular trade, though, I want Ladd McConkey unless I am absolutely loaded at wide receiver and starving for a running back, where I think I can get Travion Henderson at 4. That's the only way I would even consider this one. But I lean the Ladd side. Dave, a little bit about that with the 103 versus Ladd, and then this trade here. Add a little bit of flavor to that. The Dave Heilman way.
Yeah, as far as Ladd McConkey in the 103, we saw what McConkey did, and he finished the year. I mean, you talk about someone that finished the year on a high note. He absolutely put an exclamation on a great rookie season, and so that gives me the confidence to take him over the 103. I think that's probably where I'd draw my line. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're looking, there's Genty, and then you have Hampton. Is it going to be Tet or McConkey? Like, I'm going to take McConkey. I know the situation's good. I know that he's a good player. And then when it comes down to that other trade, I might see what my other options are before I go and pull the trigger on it. Like, if you can turn that 104 into, 107 or 108 plus a future first, or 109 plus a future first, it maybe looks a little better to me. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Every year we go into the draft and we're like, there's 20 players that I could take for a first round pick, then bad landing spots and bad draft capital. And you're like, there's only 9 guys that I really like in this class. So we'll see how that shakes out. But with this class and what it really appears to be, like with the depth in the running back position, you could be getting Ladd McConkey and Trey Henderson, Ladd McConkey or Colson Loveland. Like, you could be getting 2 really good pieces. And I think both those pieces are going to be better than Addison, and not much of a difference between McConkey and the 104. So I'm good with it, because, again, like Addison and the 111 is the other comparison. And what would you guys do, Addison or the 111?
I'd take Addison, but it's close, because I think if you say again, what we've been talking about, if you say Addison or Loveland, it's dependent. But at that 111, I think I can get more for 111 on the market than Jordan Addison, just because of, the McCarthy news helps, but it's JJ McCarthy. It's Justin Jefferson's offense, so Addison's a nice ancillary piece. Guys, we're going to be doing a mock draft tomorrow with some of these landing spots. We got Ward going to the Browns, Hunter going to the Patriots, Genty to the Raiders, Tet to the Panthers. Does that change anything for you, Brock, at that 103 talk, where if we say, now we talk about Tet McMillan to the Panthers or Ladd McConkey, does that change anything for you?
Yeah.
As opposed to the 103.
Landing spots change a lot, but still, if I'm on the clock there and someone likes the landing spot more than I do, I'm not even afraid to just go back even after that. You know what I mean? I think a landing spot just helps the pick accrue more value, which can make more people want that pick over the player more. But like comparing this where, someone's having Justin Herbert throw the ball to them with right now no other weapons alongside of him, no clear tight end 1, no clear wide receiver 2. I'm going to lean Ladd, but obviously landing spots can change everything, and they can make people start sending crazy trades there on draft night when you're on the clock.
Love it.
All right. Next trade coming over from Kevin Malador over from Patreon. So we got one side with Ceedee Lamb in the 107, the other side with Puka and RB1 from the 2024 class, Bucky Irving. Dave, I'm going to kick this one over to you here. Lamb 107 or Puka and Bucky?
This is a tough one.
Right? I threw this one in late because this one was like, woo.
Yeah, I was like, this is not on my sheet. This is a tough one. And as much as I love Bucky, running backs can always, they can always be replaced. Like, there's so many running backs that we're like, yeah, they're never going to be replaced. And it's like, the culture visiting with Ashton Genty. It's like, what? I'm still gonna go with Puka and Bucky on this one. Lamb and Puka are close. I'm gonna take the Puka and Bucky side. We'll see where that 107 lands, but I'll take Puka and Bucky.
Sometimes you have expert analysis and analysts come on and you give them the show sheet and they nail everyone. Then you throw them a curveball and they still nail it. Dave, I'm with you, man. It's Puka and Bucky for me as well, because I think Bucky's more in that 103, 104 range, and I think I can get a lot more for him if I'm trying to move off of a running back. And I love Puka Nacua. You guys know that.
All right. Next trade coming here from Dizzy Dave from the Patreon. And we got one side with Josh Allen, who just got his bag, and A.J. Brown, or other side with Brock Purdy, J.J. McCarthy, Ladd, the 103, and the 208. Dad, I'm going to kick this one over to you here. Which side do we like?
Yeah, talk about getting dizzy, right? Like I feel like this one we're gonna put this one into the trade calculator, and it's 100% gonna be on the Purdy side. It has to be with the amount of guys that are in there. But I mean, I look at right now, I have AJ Brown worth the 102, so let's call 103, 208 AJ Brown. Then we break it down: Purdy, McCarthy, and McConkey for Josh Allen, and it's like if I am 12 team super flex and I'm super QB desperate, I would consider this. It's just so hard for me to move off of Josh Allen. You know, I think we need to know a little bit more about this situation, which I do have a little bit more context here when we want to get into this one a little bit deeper. But he says, let's see where he goes. This is a 12-team Superflex, 0.75 tight end premium. His current quarterbacks are Daniels and Purdy. So he is trying to trade, and McCarthy. So he's trying to trade Purdy and McCarthy to tier up to Josh Allen. His other wide receivers in this roster are Jefferson, Nabers. So now he's trying to turn Ladd into AJ Brown. So given the context of Dizzy Dave's roster, I'm going to choose Josh Allen. And that's why the context matters so much. He has the 102, the 103, and the 110 as well. So he's getting Josh Allen to pair with Jayden Daniels. When you have the QB1 and the QB2, and these guys are that good, you're outscoring your other team's quarterbacks by 15 points. So, like, there's very few scenarios where you're going to be able to catch up to that point. A.J. Brown is one of the best values in Dynasty because of his age. So I'm taking the Josh Allen side, given the context, given all the extra assets here that Dave has. What do you think here?
Yeah, I think the team on the right is going to be a really good team, but I think the team on the left is going to dominate, like you said. And yeah, I did put this one in the calculator, and it does have the other side winning 110 to 97. It's not that far off, being that there's this many pieces. And yeah, you got to overpay when Josh Allen, like, you're not paying sticker price. Add 20%, 30% tax if you want to get Josh Allen. And that's what this is the kind of trade that does it, where you're not just throwing a bunch of stuff. This is two starters, two potential, late end QB1s. You got a back end QB1, and you got a top 3 rep pick and a second. Like, that's a very good package. And I could see, with AJ Brown, with his age, that could be more of a win now move. Josh Allen's going to be fine for a long time, but AJ Brown is, he's starting to get up there. He's also had some, some knee surgeries in the past, but I still am going to take that side because I'm probably going to win my league a couple, 2-3 years. I'll worry about the other stuff later.
If I'm rebuilding and you turn that 208 into a 27 first, I'll smash it all day because there's a lot of real nice assets in there. You can build around Purdy and McConkey and McCarthy. The 103 is going to be a really nice asset. If we turn that 208 into a 27 first because he's a contender, then you're talking 5 firsts, 5 quality firsts, and then I would do it. But in this particular trade, yeah, it's Josh Allen.
All right, guys. Next trade here coming from Jack Alper over from the Patreon. And again, we got J.J. McCarthy on one side of this with Brandon Ayuk and a 25 fourth, and the other side with Bo Nix and the 204. So a rookie we saw play versus a rookie we didn't see play. Dave, what do we think on this one?
Yeah, and a rookie that is like 4 or 5 years younger. J.J. McCarthy's 22 and Nix is 25 or 26.
But 25, I believe.
Yeah, so Nix, we've seen it. It's looked really good. The rushing was a little up and down. Like, he had 3 or 4 games where, like, oh wow, like Nix is giving us a steady 30, 35 yards a game. Then it poof went away, and then it came back for a little bit. And they're doing some things. They're trying to, Evan Ingram went and visited the Chargers and the Broncos today. They're looking for that joker. That was a big joke around all offseason, with Sean Payton wanting to find his joker, which he will. He's met with Colston Loveland. He's met with Elijah Rojo. He's met with Tyler Warren, now Evan Ingram. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Knicks side on this one. Even with the age, quarterbacks, they play a lot longer. So the 3 or 4 year age difference to a quarterback is not the same as a running back. So I'll take Knicks. Plus, you're getting that 204. What do you think?
This is tough because Knicks was considerably more valuable than McCarthy all offseason, but we've been saying this is what happens here. I think the key for me is I'm buying Brandon Ayuk everywhere I can. I value him as more of a late first, so I feel like it's a late first, early second flip. I'm kind of leaning on the McCarthy side here a little bit. It's not a smash, but I mean, I think once Ayuk comes back, I'm on that side. Brock, what do you think here? You a Knicks guy, you a McCarthy guy, or neither, and we're just trying to tear out or off of both of these guys? Settle the debate here.
Oh man. I think value-wise, I'd agree with you, Dad. I'd take McCarthy and Ayuk in the 25 fourth. I mean, even if you hate Ayuk, I feel like you could still ship him for a random 26 or 27 first. So I'll lean that side value-wise, but I do think like right now, I was very impressed with what Bo Nix did. I wasn't high on him really at all coming out of college. And you were getting him in the literally early to mid to even late second round in some of my drafts. So obviously, if you hit him there, then you're profiting by flipping him for this haul. But value-wise, I'll take the McCarthy side. But I don't really own much of either of these guys in my leagues. So like that's another added point to this too. It's like I don't know what I would sell them for. I don't know what I would be wanting to buy these guys for because I really don't be doing it in a lot of my leagues. But yeah, I'll agree with you on that side.
The one thing I always say, and Dave, I know you play this way as well, is you got to know your league mates, right? And you can tell by the way I play, I roll the dice. I take the risks. I think McCarthy, if you told me at the end of the year that McCarthy would have more fantasy points than Bo Nix this year, I would believe that. You know what I mean? But Bo Nix is a little bit safer because we've seen it. How important is it to really know your league mates? Because sometimes you find that Vikings fan and you oversell there, or you find that Broncos fan, or you find that guy that loves picks, or you find the guy that loves veterans. Knowing your league mates is almost as important as knowing market values.
100%. It's more important because it is the market value. And so like I love everybody on Twitter and all their comments, but you see so many people that are like, this is ridiculous. And then the next person's like, that's pretty good trade, And so like, you see all the different things and everybody thinks that like everybody thinks like them. And like, not everybody does. And like, you might throw a trade up there and everyone's like, this is crazy. Like, where's my invite to this league? And 2 weeks later, the person on the other side looks like a genius. Things can happen. And so, for me, your league mates, know what's going on because you can get offers accepted, whether it's a homer situation, whether they went to college in Michigan and really love JJ McCarthy, or they're a big Minnesota Vikings fan, or they just maybe hate Patrick Mahomes, and you go get Patrick Mahomes off of them, or they're a Broncos fan and they want to sell all their Chiefs. You got to know your league. It's just as important, if not more important, than the market value, because everybody has the market value. Everyone's got the smash accept rankings and they're looking through them. Not everybody knows that, like, hey, Johnny's a Michigan fan, and I'm gonna go sell JJ McCarthy for the 101.
And it's all just pieces of the puzzle. A lot of you guys are messaging on YouTube, Dad, that trade was horrible. Dad, this trade is great. And it's the same thing. You might see the Twitter polls that Dave puts up, and you're like, who the heck's paying that for JJ McCarthy? And then the other guy's like, oh, I'd smash that for JJ McCarthy. It's all pieces of the puzzle to help you. It's like when you're shopping for a new car and you go on Kelley Blue Book and you start to look around at different pricing, and you want to have the best analysis. But at the end of the day, when you go to that used car dealership, it's a negotiation. You need to know what's going on. They need to know what's going on. And that's what Dynasty Trades are all about, is really just those relationships and understanding your market value, just like this trade here from Dynasty Doggo.
Yeah, next trade here, our last one, I believe, before we got a couple more.
We got two.
Coming from Dynasty Doggo. So we got one side with Caleb Williams and the other side with Michael Penix Jr. in the 104. Dad, we only saw a couple games out of Penix. Are you willing to just tear off of Caleb, get Penix in the 104, or you're just going to stick with Caleb?
I think this is the perfect trade. I want to take Michael. A lot of you guys are coming to me and you're like, hey, somebody offered me the 1-9, the 110, a random 26 first for Michael Penix. And I'm like, no, don't trade him that. He still could be a very good quarterback. He's in a great situation in Atlanta. But I think taking a Michael Penix Jr. and tearing up to Caleb Williams is the way to win in Dynasty. The way to win isn't trading him for just another random asset. The way to win, I see a lot of you guys are like, would you rather have Penix or Alvin Kamara in a late second? You're like, no, it's still Penix. He has a lot of upside to increase in value. But when I have players that are very volatile, like a Michael Penix Jr., like a JJ McCarthy, I would rather tier up during the time of peak value and tier up to a guy like Caleb Williams. So I'm smashing Caleb here. Dave, what do you think when it comes to Michael Penix Jr.? What do you own him in areas? Are you trying to trade? You trying to buy? And is this trade good for you?
Yeah, I don't have any Penix. I got more McCarthy in my leagues. Got a couple of Caleb Williams, and for me, exactly what you said. You have the unknown, but he's still got pretty good value. And you look at like an Anthony Richardson or someone like that had had such good value, and you could use that as a foundational piece to build your trade. And so like you may not be able to get Caleb Williams for Penix straight up, but like Penix is a pretty good piece that gets you in the door for the conversation. And then you throw a 104 or, a future first or something and go get Williams, where like Williams, and we talk about this is the McCarthy and Knicks, like 3 or 4 years younger on top of all this too. And less
what
injuries.
If it's Penix in the 102 or Caleb?
I mean, it really depends. Like how much do you, I know you guys, I know Snug likes Hampton a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How far is Hampton and like Judkins or Hampton and Henderson to you?
Yeah, because it's going to be who goes in round 1 or early round 2 and what's the landing spot. So yeah, the 102 to 104 isn't much of a gap right now. I like that because it's tricky, right? Because I think it's going to need a lot more than it's worth to move up in a lot of these situations, but I'm willing to definitely pay the 104, maybe the 102, and then I would get a Joe Mixon back on the Caleb Williams side or someone like that that's worth a second. So Love that. Last one here, and Cornflakes is our newest Patreon. I love doing, when guys jump into the Patreon, they're like, wait, you guys have a live stream? And you guys throw up our trades on there. So Cornflakes is our last trade of the night. Go ahead.
All right. Welcome to the squad, Cornflakes. Appreciate it. We got one side with JSN and the other side with Bucky, Irving, and the 208. I mean, it's like that one meme. Is it Will Smith? He's like looking around the room there. There's no one else with him. That's probably how JSN feels right now over in Seattle, Dave. What are we thinking here? Just stick with JSN or are we going to flip for Bucky and the 208?
I'm going to stick with JSN. And JSN right now is rising like a phoenix on the Dynasty, rankings. He's a very, very good asset to own right now. Not only with the Sam Darnold news. I mean, Sam Darnold threw 25% of his passes last year to the slot. JSN is going to do most of his damage out of the slot. They will grab somebody. It's a decent draft. They got a bunch of draft capital on day 2, and we know Seattle. Like Schneider's like if I want to be like that's my spirit animal as far as NFL GM. I like what he does out there. And if he trades a player away like a Geno Smith or Russell Wilson, I'm like, there's something behind that because he looked like a king after the Russell Wilson deal, and I think it's going to be a good move. And they're gonna add somebody that'll take some pressure off of JSN. But what we saw out of JSN, the leap from year 1 to year 2, I'm really excited about JSN year 3.
I'm smashing JSN here. Like you said, 84% in the slot. Darnold's going to pepper him quite a bit. He's the only guy in town. In the mock that we're going to do tomorrow, Matthew Golden is mocked at 18 already from CBS, to the Seahawks. So they're going to bring in competition, that's for sure. But I think this offense is going to be throwing the ball a ton. I think their offensive line needs a little bit of help. That's the part that worries me with Darnold is he needs a little bit more time. 2 more quick bits of news. Brock, we just hit 3,000 subscribers. It just happened right now, and a lot of that's because of Dave. Dave, we loved having you on here, and I see you dropped in here. Joey Bosa to the Bills. That is fantastic news. I'm a Bills guy, so I love those kind of things. Dave, this has been an absolute pleasure. I mean, this was a lot more, informative than last time you came on because you were able to share a lot more. We enjoyed having you on here, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your work, and then we'll close things out.
Yeah. If you have a trade or anything, Dynasty Trade Calculator, and then SGPN is Sports Gambling Podcast Network. doing some rankings, some writing on them. Did some combine coverage, and then you can find me on TikTok or Twitter at Dynasty Dorks.
And Brock, I mean, we talked about DK Metcalf. Are you pumped about him coming to the Steelers? And what's your next biggest free agent move here before we close?
We need a quarterback. It's going on too long. Rodgers is taking his time. He's probably in a dark warehouse on who knows what, but it's either Russ or Rodgers. So if we got Russ throwing DK more moon balls, I think I'm fine with it. But him and Pickens, it's going to be interesting. But right now, I'm excited, to say the least. We never signed receivers for long term and give them big contracts like that. So the fact that we traded and signed him for 5 years, 150, it's a lot. But I'm excited.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy the process.